The Australian Financial Review.
In November 2023, Sam Altman was sacked as the chief executive of OpenAI. He found himself at a roadside diner in the Napa Valley, ordering his favourite dishes and a large milkshake.
And as I'm looking around the restaurant, I realize that everybody is following the story on their phone.
And that's when he noticed that everyone was looking at him.
But I'm just trying to sit there and eat my food while this chaos is going around and everybody's talking about it.
Just days later, he was reinstated after OpenAI's employees threatened to resign in protest. And he has come back stronger than ever, firmly in control of his company, with money flying into AI, and as the Trump administration takes the brakes off for the industry.
It was an interesting conversation. It also, in a way, removed the question of whether one man is going to be responsible for this super powerful AI. Is he going to be like this global dictator with a super powerful AI under his control?
Welcome to The Fin. I'm Lisa Murray. This week, technology editor Paul Smith on what it was like to sit down with Sam Altman, what the OpenAI chief thinks the world will look like in 30 years, whether there will be any jobs left, and what it would take for him to flick the off switch. It's Thursday, July 31. Hi, Paul. Thanks for coming back on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Lisa.
It's fair to say Sam Altman is the man of the moment. He's arguably the most important person in AI, which is the most consequential technology since the internet. You're not long back from San Francisco where you interviewed Sam Altman in his office. How did that come about and what was he like?
That's the question I've been asked most since I came back, because he's such an important figure in the world today. I mean, everyone's on their best behaviour when they meet a journalist, I suppose. But I spent a good hour with him, and the honest answer is he's just a nice guy.
Mm.
The interview happened, I was talking with the editor of the AFR magazine about their 30th anniversary issue, and we were talking about who we might profile that would really be a defining person for the next 30 years. Sam Altman was the first name that came out of my mouth. He's the CEO of OpenAI, is responsible for ChatGPT. So we put it to him through his communications team there, and he went for the idea. And so I flew out to San Francisco in June. We were given this 2-day window when it eventually came. I was summoned to the office. In the Uber on the way over there, I got a call from their PR person saying, "Oh my God, we've stuffed up the times. It's 15 minutes earlier than it was meant to be." Luckily, I was organised and was going to be there way too early anyway. So when I arrived, Altman himself was running late as well.
So you are catching me at the end of an insane 3 days. I just landed back from a trip to a bunch of places.
Oh, yeah.
And this afternoon, and then I've been in nonstop.
So how did Altman come to be the man of the moment in artificial intelligence? Was it something he was always interested in?
Well, this was one of the things that I was keen to cover off with him, because a lot's been written about Sam Altman, but how did he come to be this guy? But he was always interested in the topic. He told me that when he was a child, he had this idea that building AI was one of the biggest things that humans could ever achieve, and he wanted to be part of it.
It did seem obvious to me from a very young age that if we could possibly build AI, it would be the most important, highest leverage thing we could build.
And he actually went to study at Stanford to study computer science, but he ended up dropping out of uni and becoming a little bit disillusioned with the rate of progress in AI. Felt like it was not going anywhere.
I actually went to college to study AI. I worked in the AI lab, but nothing was working at the time.
Really?
It was very much the dark ages.
And instead, he went into the startup sphere.
Mm-hmm.
But he kept his eye on developments. And then in 2012...
I think 2012, yeah. AlexNet happened. And I was like, whoa. Miracles kept happening. And I was like, wow, this is...
He was really energized by this major breakthrough in AI by a trio of academics at the University of Toronto. And this was called AlexNet.
I remember once I felt a little bit crazy because I said to somebody like, this seems to me like the most consequential thing in the world and no one's paying attention. It's like they have an algorithm that can learn and it gets better with scale.
It was a groundbreaking neural network, which is a type of program that learns patterns from data and can make decisions in a similar manner to a human brain. And this AlexNet was much better at deciphering and learning things in images than any system had been before. And Sam Altman clearly was watching.
Mm.
It was around this time as well that he was really energized about the idea of AI. He could see the progress that was happening. He wrote to Elon Musk saying, well, we should start up this company that's going to be a not-for-profit, build AI for the good of humanity. And if someone's going to build AGI first, it would be good if it wasn't Google. And Musk was reeled in by that. And they set up OpenAI as this not-for-profit.
It was quite altruistic in its beginning.
It was this idea of doing research that would be shared with the community, building AI for the good of humanity. It was set up with $1 billion, a lot of which came from Elon Musk. And he fell out with Elon Musk, and rather Elon Musk fell out with the whole of the board, really, in 2018, reportedly because Musk wanted to take over as CEO or merge OpenAI with Tesla. So he left and withdrew his money and has since adopted a position that OpenAI's pursuit of profit betrayed its founding commitment. He's tried to sue the company, and then he's also started up his own version, XAI. And obviously the relationship between Altman and Musk was something that I was really interested in. But Altman actually told me he may be truthful, maybe not. He doesn't think much about Musk.
I don't think about it much. I mean, it was wild to watch last week, the him and Trump escalation. I feel like I went from nothing to Epstein in 3 hours. I still don't understand what happened.
And really repairing their friendship doesn't really come into his thinking.
So I was thinking about it then. Just what, but I don't, I normally am I'm not sitting around hoping we'll hang out again.
No.
So he and Musk parted ways and OpenAI went on developing its technology. Then in November 2022, ChatGPT came along and it changed everything. It went viral and all of a sudden people could contemplate an AI future. It put OpenAI and Sam Altman on the map. How did he handle that?
Well, he took to it like a duck to water. If you remember, he was all over the place in media interviews, traveling around the world, meeting politicians, speaking to Congress. And ChatGPT, if you remember, was an absolute sensation when it launched. It was the record-breaking adoption of a new app, floods of news reports, podcasts, including ourselves, where we were trying to get our heads around what this meant. And Altman was really the face of it, and it really became a part of the culture very quickly. And I even asked Sam how he uses it.
When our kid came, he came very early and it was very stressful.
The example that he used was he's married to an Australian guy called Ollie, and they had their first son together through surrogacy in February. And he was telling me a story about this almost surprising role that ChatGPT had in it because
he's fine now. He had very hard first few days of life. And I was fully using ChatGPT like a therapist at that point.
His child was born prematurely and he leaned on it fairly heavily for advice.
And I was not planning to have a very premature baby. And it was incredible.
So in a way, that's pretty extraordinary because actually later on in the interview, when we were talking about some of his concerns with AI, he actually mentioned how people are using it for counseling and things like that. And he's worried about people getting bad advice. But when it came to him taking advice, he did the same as everyone else. He was in a stressful situation. He had this resource and he lent into using it just like millions of other people are as well.
I mean, it was just I don't know how I would have done it without that.
So ChatGPT was going great guns. It was disrupting the world. Everyone was using it. Everyone was talking about it. Altman was riding this huge wave of success. This was back in 2023. And then seemingly out of nowhere, at least as he tells it, he got fired.
Sam Altman, who has drawn comparisons to tech giants like Steve Jobs, was dismissed by the OpenAI board Friday. The move came as a complete surprise to everyone.
And Altman opened up to you about that period in his life during the interview. It really was only a matter of days, but it clearly left a mark. What did he tell you?
So it certainly was a very turbulent few days for Altman personally, and he's still very sore about it when you get him talking about it. He says he doesn't want to become a bitter person, worried about people sort of stabbing him in the back and that kind of thing, and he wants to move on. But clearly it has left his mark, and it really did happen over a very short period of time known as the blip. It started on November the 17th, which was a Friday, when the board unexpectedly announced to the world that he was being fired, he's been removed, and they didn't really have a huge explanation as to why, other than that there was a lack of candour in his communications.
And what did you make of how it all played out?
Man, it was like 10 out of 10. The feeling of it was just this like delirious insanity.
He described it as this montage of moments playing out in his mind from a movie. So over the 18th and 19th, which is obviously Saturday and the Sunday, there was a widespread backlash from OpenAI employees and investors, most notably Microsoft.
Did you have any idea it was coming? Or?
None. Yeah, absolutely zero.
And then there was this huge effort internally to have him reinstated. The president, Greg Brockman, who was a co-founder, also resigned in protest, and there's just a huge amount of support to bring him back.
I mean, at this point, it's this like montage of these moments, and it had like a dreamlike quality even then.
And then on November the 20th, the Monday, so 3 days after he was fired, Microsoft announced that Altman and Brockman were going to join them to run their advanced AI research team, and that really did seem to be a bit of a tipping point.
I had no idea what was going on. It felt like definitely the craziest professional experience of my life.
Yeah, he'd been with his partner, Ollie. I think it was in Las Vegas at a conference, and he'd obviously not really had much chance to talk to Ollie about it all.
And then I was like on nonstop on the phone, just like crazy.
Why he'd been fired, what was going on, but he had to go and get on a plane to fly back to San Francisco to try and sort it all out.
The first time we had a moment to actually talk, so we were getting on the plane, standing out on the tarmac, like wind was blowing around like crazy, and I was finally off the phone, and I was like walking up the stairs to the plane, and he's like put his hands on my shoulders. He's like, "I'm with you 100% no matter what, but like, what the fuck did you do?" I don't know. I said, "Okay." We just got on a plane, and
it was something like 700 of OpenAI's 770 employees signed a letter saying that they were going to quit and go to Microsoft as well, unless the board resigned and Altman's reinstated. And that really left the board nowhere to go. They had to capitulate.
Now to the latest on the turmoil at OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT. Overnight, it was announced that the recently ousted CEO, Sam Altman, will now return.
He was reinstated on the Wednesday, November the 22nd. They announced that he was going to return as a CEO. They had a new board in place that were going to be more friendly to Altman. So basically the drama-filled handful of days, known as the blip, because it was over so quickly, it was all over and Altman was back in control and is more powerful than ever.
Paul, we're talking about your interview with OpenAI Chief Executive Sam Altman, who in November 2023 was suddenly fired from his job before being reinstated just days later after employees threatened to resign en masse. As you say, he came back more powerful than ever. How did that change the way he ran OpenAI?
Well, I think, as he tells it, it didn't change him a huge amount. He'd said he didn't want to become this bitter person who had been shafted and become suspicious. So he kind of follows this strategy of just attacking the next challenge in front of him rather than trying to get too far ahead of his skis. But what he says goes within OpenAI. He's got the strong backing of all of his employees. A lot of the naysayers who were uncomfortable with the way he was running things have left. But OpenAI has more rivals now. Altman is arguably as powerful as he's ever been within OpenAI, but they've got more rivals. We haven't even mentioned Mark Zuckerberg. He's Meta are trying to come up on the rails and overtake everyone with a huge hiring spree, investing huge amounts of money to build their own superintelligence division. But OpenAI is still very much at the forefront of the charge. And you can see that, for example, in July, they had the launch of ChatGPT Agents, which wasn't this sort of bombshell moment that ChatGPT itself was, but is arguably just as influential. It's this idea of agentic AI where we can have this army of bots doing tasks for us, and it can do it pretty well. And lots of other companies are trying to build AI agents in there. So he's really right at the vanguard of it still. And then if we're talking about unfettered power, we saw last week Donald Trump announce his own AI action plan, which basically took all of the guardrails away from the AI companies. Basically, Trump just wants America to win, beat China, American companies to be the first with AI. So many of the restrictions that you might have had about environmental concerns developing AI really aren't going to be a legal issue for them, certainly in the US. So he's got the sort of backing of his president. And we've seen as well, Altman has been very closely aligned with Trump. You wouldn't necessarily expect him to be politically aligned, but he was at the inauguration. And then right from the start of Trump's term, he was sort of front and center with the first big announcement that Trump made, which was a Stargate initiative to fund powering data centers. And I actually asked him about this decision to sort of closely align himself with Trump, because it doesn't necessarily fit with the image you have of him as like the king of progressive San Francisco, to be seen as a Trump ally.
Did you feel any sort of conflict about being there and standing alongside Trump?
I think it's my job to work with any president of the United States. And I hope for as much success for them as possible.
Paul, what did Altman say about the impact of AI on jobs and what people should be bracing for, how they should be preparing, what they should be studying, and also what governments should be doing to head off what has been dubbed a potential white-collar job apocalypse?
Lots of people in the AI arena have been talking about the impact on jobs. I mentioned Dario Amodei. He said something like 20% of white-collar jobs could be wiped out pretty quickly. And it's a topic that Altman says he has considered at great length. He reckons that some job categories are going to disappear almost entirely. He's since spoken publicly about customer service roles, for example, not being needed anymore when AI can handle most calls that people would make to a company's call centres. And he said one of the things that government should be starting to do is planning the introduction of a form of universal income payments, which might be surprising to some people, but he says he's long supported this idea.
I don't think it's a complete solution, but I think it is a good thing to do. But I don't think it gives people all of the meaning and fulfillment and agency that they want. So I'm in favor, but I think it's one part of a larger whole.
In general, he thinks that humans and humanity itself are very good at adjusting to the changes that technology bring to employment.
Jobs will change for sure. But I don't know, studying history, it seems to me like people are extremely good at using new tools to be more productive. And human demand seems to be pretty limitless.
And I asked him, I've got teenagers as well, what should I be telling them to study at university? Because I don't know. Employers don't know what skills they're going to need. So how does he think people should be preparing for the future, both in mid-career and also pre-career? I
think being near the frontier of technology is good. So when I was a young person, the frontier felt like programming. And I didn't know exactly why, but it felt like it was important for me to learn how to program and to do that. He always thinks it is helpful for someone to be at the frontier of new technology. And right now, I think that the frontier is these AI tools, and so the answer is to get really good at using those. So I asked him who he thought is responsible for cleaning up the mess that AI might make as well. He believes capitalist society will ultimately resolve the issue. Who should solve that? I think it's society as a whole. I think it's the governments, it's the companies, it's us, it's the workers. It is the sort of how the magic of capitalism works so that people figure out what other people want and how to create it. I think it's it is truly a whole of society problem. Who solved the problem after the Industrial Revolution or after the Agricultural Revolution? I don't think you could point to just one institution, but it is the magic of society together.
It's interesting that he's saying that these are society's problems. He's obviously quite keen to share responsibility rather than take that on as the chief executive of one of the companies at the forefront of all of this. So what does that approach mean for some of the problems that could come with the next stage of the technology? You've mentioned AGI, or artificial general intelligence, which is when the AI is as smart as the brightest humans. Mm-hmm. Billions of dollars are being poured into the development of that. What does Altman think about the timeline for when that might happen, and also some of the doomsday scenarios that have been circulated about what that could mean for society?
Yeah, when we were talking, it seems like he was almost sort of downplaying the immediacy of all this. And if it happens, we'll just deal with it. It's not a big deal. And it's maybe not what you think. And I thought it was quite interesting because we were in this meeting room in his office. And when I asked that, he sort of sat there and paused and thought about it and then sort of leapt up out of his chair, grabbed a texter and went over to the whiteboard.
So if you think of all of human technological progress is this big exponent.
And started drawing a graph on the board. I took photos of it because, I thought, that might be useful for my article. And he's just basically plotting the curve of human history when we first invented different types of technology.
Then you can say, okay, this was when we did the hand axe. And then this is when we did fire.
And then he put the agricultural revolution on there, the industrial revolution.
This is when the first computers came online. This is when the internet happened.
And his point was that at every point on this curve, people felt like the new development had come after a fairly slow progression. It seemed like a natural step, but people always thought that, wow, things are going to change massively and the curve would suddenly go vertical after that.
But if you're looking at 2012 and you kind of lived through this period, you would look back and say, man, it all went so slow, but now it's all going to go so fast because now AI is about to just happen.
And it never works out that way because people get used to things very quickly. Everyone's very adaptable.
And if you're here now all the way in 2025, you're like, man, from 2012 to 2025 felt like slow motion, but now it's about to really take off.
The things that seem amazing 1 minute can be passé the next.
Hasn't felt that crazy since 2020. I mean, the world has felt crazy, but not because of AI. And the reason that I think this is the case is we are just unbelievably adaptable creatures.
And look, I'd been in San Francisco at the time, and I'd had my first go in the Waymo driverless taxis. And the first time you go in that, obviously you go, oh my God, I can't believe that. But by the second trip, there was some problem with the Waymo, and I found myself calling the customer service person, getting annoyed. So the wonder of driverless taxis dissipated into just regular grumpy consumer within the space of 2 journeys. And so I can see the point that he's making there. And when I asked him about the superintelligence as well, which is when AI supersedes human intelligence.
Mom, what is your definition of superintelligence? I think there's a big debate. People don't articulate it this way.
He sort of jumped back up.
Sorry, keep drawing. You do one more.
And started drawing on the board again. And he was drawing these neural networks and human brains on a whiteboard to say, well, superintelligence is just going to be lots of neural networks working together in the same way that human brains work together now to do things that one person can't do, like build a mobile phone or something like that.
But in some sense, society is already a superintelligence, even though no one is that smart.
No one human knows how to build a mobile phone, but collectively we've got the superintelligence to do it. It was an interesting conversation. It also, in a way, removed the question of whether one man is going to be responsible for this super powerful AI. Is he going to be like this global dictator?
And what did he say to that? What does he think about the hypothetical scenarios out there of big companies losing control of the AI systems they're building?
I did put the doomsday scenario to him. So is he worried that, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Terminator 2 type thing, someone's going to come back from the future and ping him off because he started it all?
Oh, sure, I'll put some probability, but many orders of magnitude less than 20 on Arnold Schwarzenegger coming back and, shooting me or whatever. I worry much more about the prosaic things.
He said he's more worried about things like
what if we do rely too much on AI for therapy as a population? And what if it kind of like subtly screws with our minds in a way we don't like real, like I worry much more about stuff like that.
And I did ask him what he thinks the future world looks like. What does the world look like in 30 years? And what's changed as a result of AI? And that's a massive question to just drop on you.
I feel so confused on this topic. I mean, like, what I'm supposed to say is it looks like the crazy sci-fi future. There's, cars flying around and beautiful tall glass buildings and,
So he was certainly willing to talk about it and sort of said he has these ideas at the end of the day when he's having a glass of wine.
Maybe one thing that'll look different is there'll be a lot of robots walking the streets.
With Ollie, they have these conversations.
But I think the world kind of looks significantly like the world looks today. Evolution's not going to drift anywhere in 30 years. People are going to be motivated by the same kinds of things. People are still going to care a lot about other people and still want to, find someone to fall in love with and have families, and, they'll still have access to nature.
And I did ask him if there was a point where he would just stop. Like, he's in this position where he's running this huge company. He knows he's got all these rivals chasing the same thing, but he personally thinks, right, things have gone too far. And he said there is a red line.
If I thought we were never going to be able to solve the alignment problem in a deep way, I'd say I'm at least not going to do this.
Mm. And alignment is the term that they use for AI being aligned to humans' best interests. If he was certain that he couldn't be sure that that was going to happen, that the systems were running away, he would be willing to pull out the plug forever.
So given all of that, Paul, a final question. With the Trump administration taking a light touch approach to regulation, with artificial general intelligence and perhaps superintelligence not that far away, potentially, is Altman the guy we want in the driving seat?
I have interviewed a fair few of the sort of big names in technology over the years working for the Fin Review, Bill Gates, Jack Dorsey, Satya Nadella, and I've come away from all of those interviews feeling like there's much more human in there than maybe you get in the cartoonish view of things. But when you look around the other big AI developers like Mark Zuckerberg at Meta, Elon Musk, if you're going to pick one of those people to win, so to speak, if it was a race to having control of superintelligent AI, I think I'd pick Sam Altman over those other two, just based on my cartoonish view maybe of the other two who I've not met. But I think really the point is that we really don't want any one person to be that powerful. AI is clearly going to be a hugely, hugely important issue for many years to come. And whether it ends up being one person running one company that becomes a defining person for the future, I don't think that would be ideal for anyone. And I would hope that Altman's point that this is going to be dissipated over a larger number of companies, organisations, and even countries would be a healthier way for things to go.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you for listening to The Fin. I'm Lisa Murray, with Financial Review Technology Editor Paul Smith joining the podcast today. The Fin is produced by Alex Gow and Mandy Coulin. Fiona Buffini is Head of Premium Content. Our theme is by Alex Gow. If you like the show and want to hear more, follow us wherever you get your podcasts and consider rating and reviewing us, as it helps others find us. For more stories about markets, business and power, subscribe to the Financial Review at afr.com/subscribe. See you next week.
The Australian Financial Review.